Welcome to Withdraw Consent. I'm Victor. This is Jack. So, we've talked a lot about what really happened in Germany in the 30s and the 40s and dispelled a lot of things that, aren't true. One of the things I always talk about is, before Hitler started doing all these terrible things, he disarmed the people so that he couldn't meet any resistance and all that. Is there truth to that, or what really happened?
Okay. So, you hear a lot of people, even a Steven Crowder or something, you hear people talking like this. And I'm going to say there's two different ways to look at it.
Okay.
If I was, say, leaving the synagogue and I was going to my work at a fact-checking company, I could say, fact check true. Hitler increased gun control multiple times and took away guns, right?
Okay.
And that would be fact check true. It's false. It's factually correct, but it's completely false. And here's why. He took guns away from Jewish people. He lessened the restrictions on Germans. So 98% of the population had gun control decreased to nil. But 2% had gun control increased. So if you want, go ahead.
No, so he took some guns. He didn't take all the guns.
From certain people.
But I mean, even if you're forgetting the people thing,
that's why you can say fact check true.
Right.
Because you're just talking about those people. Now, if you do believe in the Holocaust, if that's your religion or something, and we have 4 Holocaust videos, I'll put a link in the description of the first one. You could check them out. It didn't go down like you thought it went down. We'll just say.
Right.
So, but if your premise is he took the guns in order to murder the people, but the people weren't murdered. Okay, so let's go into the history of this. I'm going to put a link in the description below. Now, this is the Columbia law. Okay. This is not the Columbia that Obama went to. This is Columbia law, New York City, New York. Okay. This is no friend of Hitler, no friend of National Socialism, definitely a big friend of the Holocaust. Okay. So I'm not citing. This article is going to refer to an article by the National Vanguard, National Alliance. So it would be the National Vanguard publishing it, which would be a friend to, National Socialism. And the article is called, the National Vanguard article is called German Firearms Legislation Under Hitler. Far from banning private ownership, actually facilitated the keeping and bearing of arms by German citizens by eliminating or ameliorating restrictive laws which had been enacted by the government preceding his. That's a long title. Anyways, and so the Columbia Law article is on gun registration, the NRA, Adolf Hitler, and Nazi gun laws, exploding the gun and culture wars. So what we're going to find out from this article, and you should check it out, it's not very long and it's fascinating. But basically what happened is the Germans lost World War I.
Right. 1919
Treaty of Versailles. One of the stipulations put forth by the Treaty of Versailles was that the Germans couldn't own guns. Okay. So in 1920, law was passed by the Weimar Republic, the puppet government in Germany, and it said, no more guns, you got to return your guns to the government. Okay. Unclear whether or not that government was the German government or the French government, but whatever, they lost their guns. So that's 1920. Hitler's going to come to power in 1933. Surprisingly, in 1928, under the Weimar Republic and still under the tyranny of the Versailles Treaty, the Treaty of Versailles, they loosened the gun laws. And now they said you can own a firearm with a permit. You need to prove 2 things. You need to prove competence and need. Okay. I think kind of everybody would say you should be competent if you own a gun.
Yes.
You should know how it works. You should know the safety rules. Like that's a gun people thing. Need, as Americans, we're not interested in whether you need it or not.
Sure.
Right? But I don't know where you live, but I think far more people need guns than you think they do. Like where I live, you hear the coyotes, you hear the dogs, people are getting their guns and going outside. And then whoever finds them, coming out of the woods, you hear the gunfire, you hear the coyotes crying, it's a thing. But they're coming for your animals or your neighbor's animals and stuff like that.
Kids, whatever.
Yeah, just whatever. I mean, even just like my dogs and cats, but not to mention my chickens and others. So if you live in the city, more people need guns than you think. It's not just a wild pig argument, though if a wild pig does come, you need substantial firepower. Anyways, so that happened in 1928, which surprised me that the Weimar Republic would do that. Hitler came to power in 1933. And then what happened was it became a thing where it was like, maybe Jews shouldn't own guns. And so their rights were violated and their houses were searched based on the gun registration. Gun registrations are not a good idea. I'll just tell you, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Anyways, this is why. And they got their houses raided. Even Albert Einstein's house was raided. There was no gun. And that wasn't codified into law till 1935. In 1935, they basically said that Jews can't own guns. Okay. Now, you may be like, wow, that's madness. But let me tell you what's happening, okay? So Hitler came into power, and the very first two laws he made were, number one, you can't do any porn, can't do any child porn, sex, blah, blah, and you can't do any usury, can't do any interest. That means that they immediately come out in the British newspaper and say Judea declares war on Germany, right? So all of world Jewry, who has no power whatsoever in any facet of the world, is now declaring war on Germany, right? So over the course of the 6 years of peace from 1933 to 1939, there's going to be 200 political assassinations in Germany by Jews in Germany, or maybe not in Germany, because just before Kristallnacht, it was a Jew in France killing a German diplomat in France. So you don't have to be in Germany, but they were National Socialist politicians and leaders getting killed. So imagine 200 killed in 6 years is approximately 33.3 per year, which is the equivalent of about 2.5 per month.
Yeah.
So
incredible.
imagine like this month, the mayor of Chicago got killed, the senator from, Indiana, and, a mayor in Wisconsin.
Right.
And it's like, wow, it was a rough month. And the next month is the same. Now it's only two
amazing.
the next month.
Wow.
And you're sitting there and you're like, wow, we just got all these special elections going around the country, because it's not a lot of humans, but it's a lot of politicians.
Very targeted. And,
a lot of destabilization. It's like, maybe these people shouldn't have guns. And you might do the same thing if you had a bunch of Islamic terrorism in your country and you had suicide bombings every day. And it's like, hey, maybe people of Islamic faith shouldn't be able to buy TNT or something. You know what I'm saying? So basically in 1935, it got codified into law that Jews aren't allowed to own guns. In 1938 was the big legislation. So the war is going to start in 39. Hitler came into power in 33 and 38. The big gun law is signed. And in this gun law, it said basically that Jewish people they already couldn't own guns, but they can't manufacture firearms or ammunition, right?
Okay.
And it was similar to constitutional carry. Now you no longer need a permit for the gun. Now I don't know what the carrying rules were, but you just didn't need a permit. Before you had to jump through the hoops. Now you just purchased the gun. And I don't know what the carrying, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you know, it's not necessary to carry. You know what I mean? It's not necessary. It's a privilege, and that was great if you can carry everywhere. But you need to be able to have access to firearms.
Sure.
For certain situations, such as tyranny or even just protection or whatever. Anyways, so you can see that at multiple times during this peace period, the guns were restricted from Jews.
Right.
But they were lifted from the Germans until, and Germany has a history of they had sword control. They had Morning Star control. Like, citizens shouldn't own Morning Stars in 1848. Not that exact year. But they really, they've gone through this. They're into this, right? And so this ended up in a very free state if you were a good German citizen.
Right.
And good German citizen also excludes people like, say, pedophiles.
Okay.
It excludes people like communists, social democrats at the time, And so there were Germans excluded as well.
Okay.
But, I don't know what you think. If somebody's teaching communism in a university, that's not teaching about communism, but is a communist, trying to convert people, do you want them to own firearms in your ideal country?
Doesn't seem like it.
Doesn't seem like it.
They're preaching against what you're trying to do with the country.
Right, because I want to say almost everybody can.
Right.
But if you're the town drunk, I just don't want you to.
Right.
Like literally you just sit outside all day and just drink, and everybody's like, it's Tom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Tom rolls into the fire thing in the sheriff's hand, and the sheriff's like, nah, bro, not you.
Right.
Just this one, not you. Everybody else. I'm okay with that. You might be against that. You might be.
Right.
But
you're thinking about the whole town. Is it
you're
good
thinking
is
about
it good
the whole
Tom
town.
Has a gun?
Right. And I'm not even saying take and apply this to something contemporary in the United States. If you try to say we need more firearm control in Chicago so we can save more black people from killing more black people. Those guns
They're not buying those from
They're
dealers.
not buying them from the dealer. They're not buying them full price. You're mistaken.
They're buying them out of a trunk somewhere.
So definitely don't gun control Chicago. The answer to Chicago is less gun control. so that good black families who are having drive-by people can return fire from fortified positions. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want that good family, even if their kid's running amok and the drive-by is on the kid, I want them to be able to defend themselves if possible.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? All the families, though. Just, anyways. So basically, the answer is, I'm going to say fact check false.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you.
If you want to be particular, you could say fact check true if you just want to talk about the Jews. But if you take into mind the political assassinations, you've got to just like put yourself in that thing and see your favorite politicians. Like imagine if this month it was, say you're a conservative right now. What if it's this month it was the governor of Florida and the senator from Kentucky? So it's the Senate House Minority Leader and the number 2/3 candidate for President of the United States, governor over here.
Right.
And what targets are you looking for? You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, it would be wild. It would be like, no, take the guns. We would have protests saying, take the guns from those people.
Right.
Now be careful, because if those are false flags happening and the government's doing it, blaming them, then don't take the guns from those people. In this case, it's not really a thing.
Right.
There's not like a German special forces team in France to kill a minor politician and frame it so that they could have crystal knock.
Yeah,
That's just
not every government has worked like the United States does with false flags.
Yeah, you might ethnocentrically. No, just kidding. I'm not going to do that to you. Anyway, so what do you think?
It's very interesting, the distinction and just how they'll just frame things a certain way where they're pretty much telling the truth, but your brain is hearing it as Hitler took all the guns.
And even conservatives of good moral standing will lie about this. It's the noble lie. They're going to lie about this and defame Hitler falsely and National Socialism falsely because they love the guns. They love the freedom for the guns. They're doing it for your best interest. And they are. It is the noble lie. But nonetheless, you're lying and falsely slandering something that was good and making it bad.
So it's actually on your side, yeah.
Right. And so I would just say, when you hear people say this, just Google it.
Yeah.
Google it and watch YouTube videos. Because in preparation for this video, I just sat there watching videos. And it's like, it's Ben Carson. He just had his book come out. You know, the black guy who was worked on Trump. And his new book came out. And he's on like CNN or something. And he's talking. And you know what I mean? He's saying, oh, well, Hitler took the guns from all of Germany and this and that. And I'm like, I see what you're doing. You're pitching gun control equals bad. Gun control equals extermination afterwards. Yeah. The problem is there was no extermination and there was no gun control.
You know what I'm saying? Entire premise is off.
Right. And I see where you're going. You're trying to, we need to keep our guns. I got you. But don't do it. You should either they're have no historical depth, the person you're talking to, and they're just ignorant.
Right.
Or they're propagandizing you.
Right.
Don't follow.
Yeah. Completely agree with that.
And when you hear people say this, because people say this all the time if they're talking guns. If you hear people say it, say, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Cool. What are your thoughts on this? Is this new information to you? Did you know that Hitler didn't take guns from German citizens? It's new information for me. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I want to say something.
Sure.
So we're going to do a video. If you stuck around this far, I appreciate you. We're going to do a video, and it's going to be generally about the myths about Hitler, okay? And so the problem is some of the things like the gun control myth or that Hitler was Walt Disney are such larger topics that they're going to require their own videos. And the very last video in that series is going to be just all the little things. What happened with Jesse Owens? Did he whip Eva? Blah, 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 blah. Like bull whipper. Like there's all types of stuff. Was his grandparent Jewish? Okay. And we're to wrap that all into one episode so we can just rapid fire them with a bunch of references. So if you have any Hitler myths that you've been taught, whether or not you've figured out that they're wrong or not, I want to know what they are so that I can include them in that video. Okay. So I'm asking you, if you haven't emailed me and we've talked back and forth and you haven't commented in a previous video, because I've written all those down, put a comment in this video or in the future Walt Disney video, like comment what you want to hear debunked or what's true, you know?
Yeah.
In the Hitler myth video. Okay.
Definitely. Release new content Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern. And if you like this content, check out some of our other stuff. And hopefully you'll find something you like.